Willie Nelson, if you don't like who's in there, vote him out, and we will have that opportunity. Welcome back to Turnout Tuesday. We're getting down to the wire. With just 2 weeks to go until Election Day, early voting is already underway in dozens of states right now. So don't delay. If you live in one of these states, vote early. Don't wait until Election Day. You can actually have influence. Well, you can't have an influence until the votes are cast, but you can cast your votes. Early voting is already underway in, let me see how good my memory is, Alaska. I'm going to try to do this in alphabetical order. I memorized this. It's an amazing feat. Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Florida. And if you hear your state, just know that early voting is already underway. I'm going to start again. Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, North Carolina, North Dakota, New Jersey, New Mexico, Nevada, Ohio, Oregon, Kansas, South Carolina, Utah, Tennessee, Texas, Vermont, Virginia, Washington, Wisconsin, Wyoming, and not the least, the District of Columbia. Now, to figure out how to vote early, if you wish, just go to www.vote.org/early-voting-calendar. Now, the good news is voters are seizing the opportunity to vote early in record numbers. I mean, in Texas, for example, in just the first day, early voting surpassed early voting totals for the entire 2016 election. This is a midterm election, folks. That means people are fired up. Voters in Indiana, Minnesota, Florida, and Georgia are also on pace to break early voting records. Now, here's the less than good news. Energy is high among Republicans as well as Democrats. According to a new report by NBC News, Republican voters are outnumbering Democrats in several key states. Now, the data is very preliminary, but this should be a huge wake-up call for anybody who thinks this election is going to be a cakewalk for Democrats. It is not going to be. Trump, Fox News, which is obviously the propaganda arm of the Trump White House, and their enablers have gone into full gear, riling up the base with the same fear tactics and lies that propelled them to victory in 2016. Instead of focusing on what they've actually done and failed to do, such as tax cut for billionaires, attempts to gut Obamacare, eliminate protections for pre-existing conditions, slashing protections and regulations for health and safety and the environment in favor of corporate profits. Trump and the Republicans, what are they focusing on? They're focusing on immigrant caravans, transgender bathrooms, Democratic mobs. This week, Trump has been talking nonstop about a caravan of migrants that's en route to the United States through Central America. These migrants, many of them women and children fleeing violence and unrest in their home countries. Oh no, Trump is instead casting them as a dangerous mob intent on ransacking America. He's even claimed that, quote, unknown Middle Easterners have joined the caravan, suggesting that terrorists are about to storm the border. Now, this is pure, unadulterated demagoguery, fear-mongering. I mean, today, when he was actually pressed about this, where did he get the facts? Trump admitted he didn't have evidence for this claim. He doesn't have evidence for anything that he says. This week, Trump also claimed that riots have broken out in California over immigration policy, sanctuary cities. Riots in California. I'm here in California. We're in California. Hello? Hello? Anybody rioting? I mean, you can have a riot in Berkeley, California, just by calling for one, but there's nothing. It is quiet. It is quiet in California. Donald Trump, next time you say there's a riot in California over immigration policy, you might want to check your facts. Maybe you might want to check your facts about everything you say, but obviously you're not. For good measure, Trump is telling his supporters that he's going to give middle-income families a 10% tax cut next week. That's what he's saying. He's promising a 10% tax cut next week, just before the midterm elections. Now, The only problem is Congress is not even back until after the election. It's not in session now. So how does he actually get a tax cut this week? Unless he's a dictator, unless he's actually, we no longer have a Congress. Maybe he's assuming that if they're out of town, he can pass legislation himself. This is a new concept in government. I mean, lies, lies, more lies. With his back against the wall, Trump is firing up the lie machine to get his supporters to the polls. He and his enablers, they don't want to talk about their abysmal agenda. So are there... Oh, there's a fire truck. That's not a riot. That's a fire truck. We do have occasional fires here in California. So he doesn't want to talk about their abysmal agenda. So they're turning all of them to fear and deceit to turn out the vote. And meanwhile, Republican officials across the country are ramping up their voter suppression efforts. Now, this is a serious, huge problem. Just to take a couple of examples. In Georgia, hundreds of absentee ballots have been rejected. The Secretary of State there, a guy named Brian Kemp, who also just happens to be running for governor of Georgia at the same time as he is Secretary of State. He's also blocking 53,000 voter registration applicants, many of whom are people of color. Just coincidence. Coincidence that he's Secretary of State and he's running for governor as a Republican, and he's just happening to be blocking 53,000 voter registration applicants. And just a coincidence that they are largely people of color. Officials in Kansas have closed the only polling station in Dodge City, Kansas, where Latinos now account for 60% of the town's population. Just close the polling place. We can't and won't let any of this stop us from voting or allow us to become discouraged. That's what they want. We're not going to give it to them. The stakes in our elections are always high, but in this election, they are momentous. If Republicans keep control of both the House and the Senate, they'll be able to pass major legislation by simple majority votes, such as another huge tax bill for the billionaires. Importantly, the threat of Trump curbing or shutting down the Mueller investigation will greatly increase if they keep control over both houses. And there's going to be no effective oversight of the Trump administration. You think Trump is unleashed now? Wait until he is genuinely unleashed, when he doesn't have to worry about a midterm election. But if Democrats take the House, they will be able to block any misguided Trump legislative policies. They'll conduct extensive oversight hearings on our reckless president, his administration, and begin the fight to repair our democracy and political system. House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi recently said that a package of campaign finance reforms would be the Democrats' first bill in the 116th Congress if they take the chamber. Campaign finance overhaul. It's what we desperately need. House Democrats are also prepared to move immediately on a series of broad democracy reforms that are including voting rights, nonpartisan redistricting, executive branch and congressional ethics reforms, clean up the mess, stop the corruption. And that's what they're going to do. Now, I want to end this portion of our little program tonight with a quote from the great civil rights leader John Lewis, who is still a member of Congress, who you may remember 50 years ago was brutally assaulted as he was trying to stand up for civil rights. He reminds us, quote, "Your vote matters. If it didn't, why would some people keep trying to take it away?" Unquote. Folks, our democracy is under attack from those in power who are willing to undermine our most basic rights to protect America's richest and most privileged. But we can't let this keep us from the polls. We must, for the sake of our democracy, for the sake of our kids and grandkids and future generations, persevere. Now, for more information on how to vote early, again, visit vote.org/early-voting-calendar. Encourage your family and friends to vote early, too. encourage everybody to vote. If you'd like to do even more, join an indivisible phone bank to help get out the vote. You can sign up at www.indivisible.org/phonebank. Do it right now. If you'd like to attend a canvassing event, visit act.moveon.org/events/GOTV_canvas_attend/. There's still time to get out the vote. And now for your questions, Mart Graff and Joanne Formasino. Did I pronounce it correctly? Good. How are these voter suppression tactics legal? And how can we counteract voter suppression? Well, unfortunately, a lot of them are legal, or at least the states are making them legal by fiat. Now, some of them are being challenged. Eventually, they will be going to the Supreme Court. But until we act, until we take back these states for the people, not for the power and the privilege, but for the people, these voter suppression tactics are unfortunately going to continue. One of the biggest ones, obviously, is the Electoral College. Now, we have a video out on how we can actually end the relevance of the Electoral College, but there are all kinds of ways in which we've got to have a democracy movement. And Marge and Joanne, or is it Mark and Graff and Joanne, you can be part of it, and you should be part of it. Brenda Henry, how can we make the most of this crunch time before the election? Well, Brenda, again, listen. You need to phone bank. You need to canvass. You can, if you live in a district that is close to a purple district, you can actually go to that purple district. You can do a lot of things and get your family and friends and everybody else to vote. There is absolutely no excuse for not being an activist right now. Because they, the other side, you know what they have? They've got money. They've got some very, very powerful people. What we have is our voices and our vigor and our votes. Barry Thompson, can my daughter still register to vote? Well, Barry, it depends on what state you're in. I read a whole list of states. Yes, you can, probably she can register to vote, but check on that site that I gave you in terms of registration. And that site, again, just so you have it, is vote.org/early-voting-calendar. Adrian Ramos, what should I do if I'm being turned away at the polls? Well, Adrian, some people are going to be turned away at the polls. Make sure, first of all, you bring your voter ID. And if you are in a state that requires a photo ID, you have to bring a photo ID, but bring an ID. And secondly, if they still won't let you vote, at the very least, and this is the last resort, ask for a provisional ballot. A lot of states have provisional ballots that are provisional in the sense that they will review it, they will review your credentials, and then that ballot becomes an official ballot. But that's just if all else fails. This is your right, Adrian, and everybody else. We are a country by, of, and for the people, not by, of, and for the billionaires or the Republicans or Donald Trump. Evan Millett, will you run for president? Well, me? I will run for president. Well, Evan, the problem is I've got three disadvantages. I'm too short, I'm too old, and I'm too outspoken. Other than that, I'm perfect for the job. Actually, you know what I'll do? I won't close the door completely. I will keep it slightly cracked open just in case. Does that satisfy you? All right. As always, a special thank you to Shada Ezemian, Omri Shir Dalal, and Andrew Santana. And thank you all for doing what you are doing to preserve and protect this democracy called the United States. See you next week.